Pakistan just made a move that could completely reshape South Africa's position on the global stage. While the world watches Pakistan versus South Africa unfold across multiple fronts, what's happening behind the scenes reveals a much bigger story about Africa's rise and who gets to control it. This isn't just about cricket scores or diplomatic meetings. We are looking at a strategic competition that exposes how external powers are positioning themselves in Africa's most advanced economy. And the implications for Pan-African unity might surprise you. Today we are breaking down the Pakistan-South Africa dynamic across three critical dimensions. First, the economic partnerships that are quietly reshaping trade routes. Second, the diplomatic chess game playing out in international forums. And third, what this means for Africa's sovereignty in an increasingly multipolar world. Let's start with the numbers that tell the real story. Pakistan-South Africa trade hit $1.2 billion in 2023, but here's what's fascinating, 78% of that flows in Pakistan's favor. South Africa exports primarily raw materials, coal, iron ore, and agricultural products. Pakistan sends back finished textiles, pharmaceuticals, and increasingly, technology solutions. This pattern should sound familiar to any student of African history. It's the same extractive relationship we've seen repeated across the continent for centuries. But South Africa's government is pushing back in ways that signal a new African confidence. Like this video if you want to help more Africans see this story. The relationship dates back to the 1990s when both countries emerged from periods of international isolation. Pakistan had been sanctioned over its nuclear program. South Africa was breaking free from apartheid. Both needed new partnerships, and they found common ground in the non-aligned movement and later the G77. But here's where it gets interesting. In 2019, Pakistan's Prime Minister Imran Khan made a bold statement at the UN, calling for debt relief for developing nations. South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa immediately backed the proposal. This wasn't just diplomatic courtesy, it was strategic alignment against Western financial dominance. The cricket rivalry between Pakistan and South Africa has actually become a soft power battleground. When Pakistan defeated South Africa in the 2021 T20 World Cup, Pakistani media emphasized it as a victory of Asian resilience over African talent. That framing reveals how even sports becomes a tool for broader geopolitical positioning. But South Africa's response was telling. Instead of engaging in regional rivalry, Sports Minister Natim Betwa emphasized the strength of global South cricket against traditional powers. That's Pan-African thinking, refusing to be divided and instead building broader coalitions. The current situation is being shaped by three major players with very different agendas. First, Pakistan's government is leveraging its relationship with China to offer South Africa access to Belt and Road Initiative projects. But these come with strings attached, specifically, support for Pakistan's position on Kashmir in international forums. South Africa has been careful here. They've accepted Chinese investment but maintained their traditional support for Palestinian self-determination while staying neutral on Kashmir. This is sophisticated diplomacy, taking economic benefits without compromising core African solidarity principles. Second, we have South Africa's private sector, which is increasingly frustrated with government restrictions on deeper Pakistani partnerships. Mining giants like Anglo-American want access to Pakistani markets, but they are blocked by regulatory concerns about money laundering and terrorist financing, issues that trace back to Pakistan's complex relationship with regional security. The third player that's often overlooked is the South African labor movement. COSOTU, the powerful trade union federation, has consistently opposed deeper Pakistan ties. Because of concerns about textile imports undercutting local manufacturing jobs. This creates an interesting dynamic where African workers are actually pushing for policies that protect African industry. Now here's where this gets really significant for Pan-African development. Subscribe for honest Pan-African analysis you won't find on CNN or BBC. Pakistan's approach to South Africa is part of a broader strategy to position itself as the bridge between Asia and Africa. But South Africa is not playing along with being anyone's stepping stone. The African National Congress government has made it clear that any partnership must be mutually beneficial and aligned with African continental integration goals. Look at how South Africa handled Pakistan's recent request for agricultural technology transfers. Instead of a simple bilateral deal, South Africa insisted the technology be shared through the African Union's Agricultural Development Framework. This means other African countries benefit automatically. This is the new African approach, refusing to be divided by external powers and instead using every opportunity to strengthen continental unity. When Pakistan offered to mediate South Africa's water crisis solutions, South Africa countered by proposing a Pakistan-funded water technology center that would serve the entire Southern African development community. The implications for Africa's future are profound. We are watching South Africa demonstrate how a confident African nation engages with external partners without compromising African interests. This isn't anti-Pakistan, it's pro-Africa. Every major global power is watching this dynamic because South Africa is setting the template for how Africa will engage with Asia's rising powers. The days of simple extractive relationships are over. Africa is demanding partnerships that build African capacity and support African integration. Pakistan represents both an opportunity and a test case. The opportunity is access to affordable Asian technology and alternative trade routes that reduce dependence on Western markets. The test is whether these partnerships can be structured to genuinely benefit African development. South Africa is proving it can be done. Their recent agriculture technology deal with Pakistan includes mandatory technology transfer to African universities and requires Pakistani companies to source 40% of components from African suppliers. That's not just trade, that's transformation. What this means for Africa's future is clear. We are entering an era where African nations have the confidence and capacity to negotiate as equals. The Pakistan-South Africa relationship is becoming a model for how Africa engages with the global South. But success requires vigilance. Every partnership must be evaluated through the lens of African continental integration and genuine mutual benefit. South Africa is showing the way, but it requires support from African citizens who understand these dynamics. The next 5 years will determine whether Pakistan becomes a genuine partner in African development or just another external power seeking African resources. South Africa's approach suggests the outcome depends entirely on African unity and strategic thinking. This is why stories like this matter. The more Africans understand these dynamics, the better our leaders can navigate them. Comment below, do you think Pakistan can become a genuine partner for African development, or are we seeing another version of the same old extractive relationship? And check out this next video where we break down how Nigeria is handling similar challenges with Asian partners.